my hat all right?
Okay.
Sure. All right, this is an interview at the New York State Military Museum, Saratoga Springs, New York. It is the 28th of September, 2005. Approximately 1 p.m. Interviewers are Wayne Clark and Mike Russert. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
Yes, Raymond Allen Waldron, born April 5th, 1932, in Mechanicville, New York.
Okay, what was your educational background prior to entering service?
Well, prior to entering service, I graduated from Mechanical High School in 1950. Then I graduated from West Virginia, but it was West Virginia Pulp and Paper Company in Mechanicville a couple of years, and played a lot of semi-pro ball. And then of course, I wanted to go in the Marine Corps like my father and my brother. And I just recently had an operation, and they said you're going to have to wait at least a month. I said, if I wait a month, I'll be drafted. Sure enough, I was drafted into the Army, and there we went from there.
That answers my next question. So you were drafted. All right. Where did you go for your basic training?
Basic training was in, Indian, how could I ever forget that? Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania. Little Korea, they called it. And I thought I was going in the Army. Recruiter told me, one of the recruiters, when I was drafted, I played a lot of ball and I had a lot of scholarship offers, they said, well, you'll have an opportunity to play ball in the service. I said, oh, great. So when I got to Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania, they gave me a rifle, and they said, that's as far as you're going to get to a ball. And boy, let me tell you, they were right. We shipped out of there real fast and went to Korea. But I'll tell you one thing, the basic training was certainly great, and certainly prepared us for what we were going to be doing in Korea.
Okay, how long were you at Indiantown Gap?
I was there for, I believe it was 14 weeks, 15 weeks, like that. We had and I think we were the only company out of the thousands of people that were there that walked. We walked everywhere. This company commander would not let us ride, and believe me, we walked. The firing range, we walked all over. And it certainly got us in shape. He says, you'll need to be in shape for the hills of Korea where you're going. And I thought they were just kidding, but they were ever so true.
So you think your preparation was adequate?
It was excellent. It was excellent, yeah. It certainly was.
Okay. After your 14 or so weeks there, where did you go?
We went on the love of my life. We got on a troop train in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and we went all the way out to Tacoma, Washington on a troop train. And that was a great experience, and I love trains anyway. Being from Mechanicville, it was a railroad town, and we used to get on the trains a lot, and we really had great experience. We were well received in all the cities and communities all the way out to the West Coast, and until we got around the Chicago stockyards. And back then, that's where the trains would turn right through Chicago stockyards, and believe me, the aroma was something. But we went on up to Tacoma, and we had, I would say maybe 4 or 5 days there. And then from Tacoma, we went down, we visited Seattle, and then from there we went to, they shipped us down to San Francisco when we got on a ship and took us to Japan. And the ship...
Now, were you assigned to a unit before you left the country? Or?
No, we didn't know where we were going. And we got into Japan, and we weren't there too long, as I recall. And we got on a ship that had 4,000 troops and 8 bunks high, and it was just awful. Believe me, it was a terrible, terrible trip. And we got into LSDs. We got off on the cargo ropes and got in LSDs, and we got in at night. And all we could hear was a lot of shooting, and a lot of banging, and bombs, and mortars, and believe me, we didn't want to climb down that cargo rope, but we got down there.
Now, when did you arrive in Korea?
Well, boy, it had to be sometime in January, I believe. Sometime in January, and it was at night, very, very dark, and we got into deuce and a halves, I guess they called them, and we just traveled and traveled like God knows how far, and we got into the company and outfit that I was assigned to was in reserve, and I guess reserve was about 5 miles back from the line, what they call the line of fighting, or DMZ. At that time, it was the DMZ was set up. Mm-hmm. So our company, I was assigned to Fox Company, 14th Regiment, 25th Division. So right away they were in pup tents in the back, reserve. So I got acclimated to my company for about 2 weeks, and then we got sent up to the DMZ.
Now this was during January. You had
Yes.
winter gear, full winter
Right,
gear.
we had winter gear, and it was cold and snowy and muddy, and that wasn't a very good reception, but nevertheless, I didn't expect too much of it, being the stories that we heard, and fortunately, they were in reserve, so we did get acclimated, and we did get briefings on what to expect. Mm-hmm. And so after a couple of weeks, we went up on line. I think at that time, you stayed on line maybe 3-4 months, and then you go back in reserve, and then go back up. And we kicked around just at the planes and the bombings and the shooting was quite prevalent at that time. When so the reception we got was a lot of shooting and a lot of bombing and a lot of mortars dropping on them. So I guess they knew where we were and we knew where they were. But fortunately,
now, what were your living conditions? Did you live in tents at that time, or when you were in the front lines, or did you live in
the
bunkers?
front we were in bunkers.
Bunkers.
We were in bunkers, and we manned machine guns. I was on a BAR, and the bunkers were really well fortified. A lot of rats running all over the place, and the trenches were a lot of mud, and it did dry out days, but boy, we just confronted with a lot of mud. The big thing when we're up on line was going out on patrol. That was just unbelievable. The patrols, they knew where you were, and we didn't know where they were. Fortunately, I never went through any hand-to-hand combat, but we did get a lot of mortar. So we did have guys get wounded by shrapnel, and even when we were in reserve, you're sitting there maybe having a lunch, and the mortars come dropping in on you. I was in a couple of skirmishes with mortars we had a captain as a company commander, and he was wounded, and we had a lieutenant that was wounded, and we wound up with just one lieutenant in our company. And I found myself as a platoon leader, as a corporal, taking the groups on patrol. And,
could you describe some of your patrols?
Well, the patrols really, one thing about the patrols, we had the Turks attached to our outfit. The 25th Infantry Division had the Turks. Mm-hmm. And the Turks were tough. They wanted to go on patrol, and they wanted to find people, and they wanted to have combat. They wanted to have hand-to-hand fighting, and they loved to fight with knives. And they went on patrol with a loaf of bread and a knife. And they were a little scary. I remember I was this one particular time, I said, now listen, we're going on recon, we're just going to go out there and set up, and we're going to listen, and we'll just spread out and you'll listen to my commands and we'll go from there. And, oh, we got to have some contact. We got to have some. No, we're not going to have any contact. I said, if they find us, we'll certainly have to get them in contact. But they were a tough bunch and they were good. They were good. But we mostly set on recon patrols anytime we went out. And my particular time as a leader, I was complimented on my group, the group I led, and the guys had a lot of confidence in me. And fortunately, we didn't have any hand-to-hand contact with anybody, but we had shells flying all over us. A lot of times we would have, the illumination of the skies, the flares. We would call back the flares, as we thought we heard some kind of people. So a lot of flares, as you go out on patrol, you call in for a lot of flares, and so it kind of illuminates the sky and where you are, and certainly. But you stay out there for most of the night, and very quiet, set up, and you always had a group in the back ready to come and help you. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, we never had to call on them. I was on a couple of patrols where we had to call on backup because we ran into mortars and things, so we called up another outfit and back to us. But fortunately, I escaped all of them. I remember one time when we were in reserve, we were all, and when you were in reserve, you had to. They would feed you mess food, the food, and it wouldn't be bad. They had us cook in the stove and all that, and you had to separate. You had to be at least 10 yards from somebody else, so you communicate and yell and talk. And boy, they bombarded us with mortar. And fortunately, I escaped that, but unfortunately, we had a couple of guys get hit by shrapnel, and fortunately, they did not get killed. But during my time, in our outfit, we did not have anybody killed, which was fortunately. Mm-hmm. And all the time I was there, I would say probably 75% of the time we spent online, and the other 25 in reserve. And usually when you go back in reserve, they would have rations for you. You could have some beer and much better food, because online you would only have the ration, sea rations, I think they call it. And so you did get a few cans of beer when you're back online, but you always had to pull some kind of guard duty. And so you were never really, whether you're online or in reserve, you never really felt comfortable about being there. But we had a lot of people from all over. And I was discussing with my wife names that just don't come to me anymore. And I remember guys. This guy went to Southern Cal. This guy went to Boston College. And we get talking, and I said, "Who the heck are those guys?" For the love of me, I often see in the Graybeards, it's a publication for Korean War veterans, and then the guys can locate people. I often wonder, I should probably write in there and tell them I was here in Korea at this time, this company. I guess they do locate a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would you say your equipment was during the winter, especially keeping you warm, so on? Do you think you?
Well, your feet. Feet was played. They always wanted to make sure you had dry socks and change your socks maybe 4 and 5 times a day. That was the big thing over there, your feet. And keep it warm was not bad. The clothing was I would say adequate. And you cuddle up in those bunkers. They're pretty warm. Mm-hmm. They're pretty warm. They're way down in there, right. And they got a lot of warmth to them. But it's certainly I was prepared for it, but yet you're never prepared for war as far as in combat, and I just say I was prepared to do what I had to do, and I don't regret it to this day.
How did you like the BAR as a weapon?
Pardon me?
How did you like
Oh,
the
that was
BAR?
it. Never failed for me. I fired it quite a few times, and it was heavy, very heavy.
Right.
I think today the weapons are much lighter, but they certainly the guys used to tell me, well, you better be careful because you're the first one they want to shoot at. But when I was platoon leader, I of course carried a carbine, and that was nice to carry around. But it was I would say Korea. By the time we got there, it was pretty much the DMZ, and the patrols were scary things about the whole thing. But you were never comfortable, no matter where you were there. We did gather enough points. When you went online, you received points. You could gather so many points, and off the top of my head, I don't know what it, but they would let you go for 7 days, what they call 7 days R&R. And we had a choice between 3 or 4 different places, and a group that I kind of hung around with that I knew, we all chose Tokyo. So after about 5 months, let's see, January, February, March, April, about May, June, July. Oh, it was before it ended. Before it ended, we a bunch of us chose Tokyo, so we got in these big, I think there were C-130s, and they flew us into Tokyo, and we spent six days there. And the 7th day, believe me, nobody wanted to come back. We lost a few people that didn't come back, but they weren't in our outfit. But it's really, it was probably the right thing to do, but, of course you had the right frame of mind. Unfortunately, I had a good bringing up from a great mother and father, and brothers and sisters, but I could see why people could stay in Tokyo when they got there, because you had to go back. And, we went back, we had no problem. But
How did you feel about the South Korean soldiers? Did you ever
what they call them, KSCs, I guess they call them. They were just great. They were just wonderful, wonderful. And they would kind of like be a houseboy for you. They would do cleaning for you. They would do, but the guys that were assigned to our outfit were good fighters. They were great fighters, well trained. And then we would have what they called house people would come in and do all your laundry for you, and you give them a couple bucks. And they treated you wonderful. It's wonderful. The thing that got me, I've never seen a city, a town. I saw little huts and villages, but we were mostly in the woods, in the mountains, and so I never got to. Somebody said, well, what did you think of Seoul when you went back? I said, Seoul? I didn't see Seoul. I said, I saw nothing but hills and mountains and valleys and the water. We drank the water that ran off the mountains. It was pure, and it's cold, and I'm still living today, so it was great water. But I'm getting ahead of myself, but the question was, how'd you like Seoul? And I went back. They invited us back, and I did go back a few years ago. But of course, where we were was at that time when I was everything is in North Korea now, where we were. So we never had an opportunity to go up there. But we went up when I went back as far as the DMC. But while I was there, it certainly can make a man out of a boy very quickly. But I was from a family of 10, so I was able to adjust to a lot of things that other people weren't, that I confronted. And so during my stay there, when we went in reserve, we did have opportunities to play some basketball and some baseball and throw the football around, which was something I had a desire for, but never had the opportunity to until I got back in the service. I'll never regret it. It was certainly.
Did you ever see any USO shows at all?
Not over there. No, we saw nothing over there. Never had an opportunity to go back and see any shows, and we had VIPs come up, generals, who they were now I'll never know, but I guess I won't know, but I can recall them visiting us while we're in line and asking us how things were, and are you getting food and so on. So no, we never did leave line or when we were in reserve to go to any shows.
Did you, being a time when the Army was being integrated, did you have any blacks in your unit?
Yes, we did, and they were very, very nice. We had no problems. We had probably, in my company, we had probably 4 or 5, which they were great people. We had one that got mixed up in some trouble, but he kind of didn't want to be there. But we never had any problems with it. They were great guys. And of course, I was well prepared for that. There was none of any of that.
Now, how long were you in Korea?
I was in Korea from January, and I still to this day, I think I got out of there around September or October. Because I had enough points to rotate out. And again, the points were if you had enough, you rotated out, like I want to say 30 points, and you rotated out. Fortunately, I flew back, so I didn't have to take a ship, which was great. And I flew from Korea to Tokyo to Guam to Tokyo to San Francisco. Then I flew from San Francisco to Washington, D.C., and there I took the train. I wanted to get back on the train in Albany.
Now, I noticed you said you were, after your service in Korea, you were a trainer of recruits at Fort Dix?
Yes, that was really a great experience. And the kids really, I think it prepared for me to be a teacher, really, is what I wound up doing. I really liked, I guess, showing the kids and demonstrating to the kids what combat was all about and what my experiences were in Korea. And the kids were really, I put two outfits, 2 cadre outfits, platoons through Fort Dix, and they were just great kids. And the company commander I had was a captain, and he was from Boston College. And boy, he worked on me to stay in the Army. And of course, in the back of my mind, I from a family of 10, as I told you, my father being a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps in World War I, highly decorated, by the way. And we never knew this until after he died. He was awarded 3 Silver Stars, and he was awarded French Couturier with the Guild. And we never knew it. 8 brothers, 8 boys and 2 girls, never knew it. The day he died, my mom applied for burial rights from the government, and they sent a big letter with all his citations from the Commandant of the Marine Corps, signed by General Lejeune. And so then my brother went in the Marines. That's Hawley, who I don't know if he came up here or not. I got to try to get him up here. He could tell some oral history. Believe me, he was in the Marshall Islands, Saipan, and Iwo Jima, and he got shot in Saipan. Supposed to go home, he wouldn't go home because he wanted to be with his outfit. That time, I guess, you stayed with your outfit from platoon training to the end. You were with the group of men. So Hawley got shot in Saipan, then he went back to his outfit and he got shot in Ewo. In fact, he told her, he's not one to tell stories, but one night he was telling us that the guys that picked him off the battlefield, he was out lying down there all alone when he got shot. 2 guys went out, the next day they got killed. So Ewo wasn't, and he could tell some stories. I don't know if he was here to do this or not. I know he was not. So Hawley's about 83 now.
Where does he live?
He lives in Mechanicville.
Oh, okay.
And he goes to Florida in the winter, Bradenton. So I'm going to work on him. I'll try to get him up here, and he could tell some real stories.
No, what was there?
No, that's what I say. My background certainly prepared me for, being around kids and played ball. I played ball all my life, and I was fortunate. So
Now, when were you discharged?
I was discharged. I had an opportunity. If you could prove that you were accepted in college, they would let you out 3 months early. So I got out 3 months early, and I got accepted to Ithaca College.
Now, did you use the GI Bill at all?
Yes, I did. We had no money. Family of 10, we had no money, and we lived on the GI Bill. And when I went to college, I played football, and unfortunately, I got injured. But I was able to have a part-time job, and so we struggled, and we made it, and we had a lot of fun. I met some of the guys I was in college with on the ship, and we were going to Korea. And when I came back, I met them at Fort Dix, which is not. I since found out that we were, only from college. I shouldn't say I met them there, but when we got meeting some guys out at college, they said, well, we went on this ship, we went on that ship. We're in Korea at this time. So it's funny how there was a big, in 1954, I went to Ithaca College, and there was a big group of Korean War vets at school at that time. And that was a great experience out there. We were a little, we need to had some extra tutoring. And let me tell you, the professors out there were really good to us. They helped us out a lot. But,
this is an obvious question. Do you belong to any veterans organizations?
Well, I belong to all of them, the VFW, American Legion, and presently I'm commander of the Adirondack chapter of Korean War Veterans. And we cover 7 counties here in the north, and it's nobody wants to be the commander, and it was down to whether, well, hey Ray, come on, you be the commander. So I am, and I will do it for a couple of years, but the guys are up there in age, and they just don't want to.
Right.
But fortunately, my background, I think I can. It's going good, and we're having a lot of fun. But it was a great experience. I spent after the Army, of course, I spent 4 years in Ithaca, and played some ball that I thought I was going to play in the Army, but an injury. I played baseball and football at Ithaca, and an injury did me in there. But I applied for a job in Saratoga. I applied for a job in Saratoga Springs as a student teacher, and they accepted me. And after I did my student teaching, the director of physical education asked if I would come here next year and be a teacher, and I did. I stayed here 37 years, so I was fortunate.
Did you ever stay in contact with anyone that was in service with you?
Well, there was 2 or 3 from Mechanicville, yes, I did. There was a couple that went overseas, but we weren't in the same outfit. So, we reminisce and we tell stories of what ship we were on, and come to find out, one guy who joined the Korean War Veterans with me, who presently is driver ed teacher for the parochial school over here. He lives in Fort Everett. He was at Ithaca with me, and we were in Korea at the same time, and we didn't know it. So, but we do stay in touch with a few people. And But I get letters from 14th Infantry Regiment, 25th Division, that come to reunions. I've been to the 25th reunion, and of course I went back to Korea. I had an invitation from the Korean War government. They put on, for our 50th anniversary, they put on Back to Korea for parents, for veterans, and for as little as $1,000, you and your wife could go to Korea and spend 5 days traveling from Busan to the DMZ. All top 5-star hotels, and believe me, Korea, South Korea, it kind of boggles your mind when you see what North Korea, you read about what North Korea is and what South Korea did. I mean, they just, it's amazing. You've got beautiful, beautiful hotels and cities, and here in North Korea, they don't want to join the forces. But we had a wonderful tour, and everywhere they would have you would go in an auditorium, and they have speeches and how they praise the Americans for coming over there and getting involved in the war. And every place you went, they just loved you. They gave you gifts galore, and they praised you, and standing ovations. There was 8 buses that on my tour that we traveled from Busan to, and we visited many places that I've never seen before. And then, of course, when we got up on the DMZ, boy, everybody had guns, and they were on. Our troops were here, and they were here, and there was no man's land in between, and it was a little scary. I'll tell you, these North Koreans, I can't figure them out.
Okay, could you, if you just hold this in front of you like this, Wayne can focus on it and tell us where and when that was taken?
Yes, this was taken in Korea. No, this was taken on R&R from Korea, and we chose to go to Japan, Tokyo, and this was taken in what they call the Hotel Mary, and they were taking pictures of different soldiers over there free, and I fortunately had one. I never knew. I guess my wife had it tucked away somewhere, and this was after probably 6 months in Korea. We had an opportunity to go to Japan. A lot younger than us.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your interview.
Well, good. And like I said, I'll try to get my brother up there. That would be some of those World War II.
If